quickly, just to show you some of the key bits. And then I'll show you the most exciting part, which is the meatier part of the platform, where you actually approve the different checks and what that would look like for you as a administrator or someone that's doing the checks in the company. So you have a very normal sign-in page. So the first place I want to show you is the recruitment side of things. So this is where you will have your own application form. The application form is designed to be your one point of entry for all of your tutors. So this is a form that you can easily customize to your liking, and you can also then share. When you click on the share button, a link is copied, and you can then put that URL on any job postings that you have, maybe on Indeed or LinkedIn or even your website, and then they will go straight to this application form and fill this in as a tutor. So it takes all the normal details, personal details, where they may have heard about you. You can edit these options, as well as why they would want to work for you, what the highest qualification is, if they have a PGC or QTS. This is something that you can toggle off. Do they have a right to work in the UK? What subjects they can teach? And when they do pick on a subject, they can select certain levels for that subject. Again, you can edit the subjects and levels to your liking. How they are available to teach. This has become quite an important question for the tutoring industry. Is it going to be remote, in person, or both? And then their interview availability, so they can pick out a couple of days and times. Again, this can be edited from your end when you customize it. They then upload a CV. Once they've entered that form and they've applied, they will get a notification saying that you have received the application, and then they will fall into the all applications list. So I've got a few applications here already. This is a new application that I can show you, Poppy Griffins. So you can view the full application. You have just the general details here in the list, and when you click on view, you'll be able to have a more in-depth insight into what that application was. So again, you have all the personal details, including their name, email address, phone number. And then what's really nice is that you can see their CV straight away by clicking on the eye icon, and you can look at the CV straight on the platform rather than having to either download it or go into your emails and find it, or find it in a folder, etc., etc. So really easy access. You can see all the information that they've entered over here. And then you will also be able to see what the teaching skills are, etc., as well as their interview availability. If you have any questions, please do put them in the chat and I'll answer all of them in one go. You have three options here. You can either add them to a waiting list, so they will get a notification saying, or an email saying that that you as a company have added them to a waiting list because you may not have the availability for them. And if they want to be taken off file, then they can just email you directly. You can also reject them. Again, this is all at a click of a button. So you can either use your generic template, which you can view from a different place in the platform, or you can create a personalized message. So you've got the option of both. You can then, so what I'm going to do is accept Poppy, because we really like her application. And once she is accepted, then her status will change that she's now been taken to the interview stage. So if I then go and click into the interview section, I can then see Poppy as one of my shortlist tutors. Over here, you can easily send a meeting link. So it will be already filled with a meeting link that you have preset from beforehand. You can also choose a second interviewer, which is what good practice dictates. Having two interviewers is good practice, and then setting the time and date, and then you can send that off. We also have a really detailed interview form. Now, this is a tool that you can use through your interviews, or you can fill in after your interviews, depending on how you prefer to do it. And this is split into sections where you can fill in all the information about the interview. You can add rates as well, if that's something that you want to keep a record of at this stage, just to make decisions later on. And then you can also fill out other things like about the tutor. So we've given you some questions already to start off with. Again, you can hide these or show these depending on what you'd want available to you throughout the interview. But this whole interview form and the way it's laid out is to almost create as a checklist for you while you're conducting the interview. So you'll see that there's a section for online teaching. So here are some questions that you would want to ask about their online teaching, because that's become something that's a more of an accepted method through tutoring. Teaching capability. This is really nice because you also have scoreable fields in this section. So you can rate the answer. You may not be able to see the drop-down menu here, so I apologize for that. It's just the way the screen sharing works. But as I rate how they answered these questions, there will be an average percentage that will be aggregating over and accumulating as you rate the questions. And this you can use as a metric, a very tangible metric when you look back at the interview form when making a decisions.
So just to jump in there, what Noor's describing is essentially when we were being approved by the National Tutoring Programme, Safer Recruitment comes right at the beginning of the process, so the application form. So there are things in there that need to be sort of set. That helps with the Safer Recruitment. We've now moved on to the interview phase, which is what Noor's showing you. And one of the things that constitutes exceptionally high standards of practice in Safer Recruitment involves the interview process itself. You have to, it is strongly advisable to have scoreable fields and a standardized interview protocol and standardized interview process with similar questions that you can then add your own scores on as you're taking the answers from the the criteria are, sorry, I'm just reading a question. It says, what is the criteria? That is completely up to you to decide in-house. So we've given you a 1 to 5 score. And you can say that 5 is great, 1 is a poor answer, but you've got various questions under different categories, including some of the checks that you need to do, document verification, safeguarding questions. What are the other questions, for example, Noor?
Yeah, so you have the checks. These are things that you can ask within the interview. These are something that we would recommend you asking in the interview, such as, what's the status of their DBS? Are they on the update service? What passport do they hold? Have they lived or worked abroad for the past 5 years? Because this just prepares you for when you are getting to the point where you are doing all the checks. So if you know that they have lived abroad for 5 months 2 years ago, then you can just pre-warn them and say, we will need a police check or police clearance for that time that you were living abroad. This is also a really important question of, can you explain any gaps in your employment history? So this is another check that you will do later on when you do decide to onboard them officially and they start registering. So this is a question that you can ask, and you can note down the answers over here in this box over here. So you can
now, in interviews, it is advisable to have 2 interviewers. I know that administratively is quite laborsome. The handy thing here is that we've essentially outlined, or the system that we've got here in the interview stage is the one person can type whilst the other one is doing the interview. You can then compare scores or whatever it might be. Like I say, the scoring system will be completely up to you to decide how you want to do it in-house. It then means that everyone is interviewed in a very standardized way, so that there isn't we've all done these interviews like, yeah, he sounds great, that's perfect, yeah, she's really experienced, that'll do. We want to try and avoid that and lead you, and we've given you sort of a framework under which you can make really standardized choices. There isn't a correct order. So we've just had a question, is I would do this before the interview. Is there a correct order? Is this pre-interview or at interview? Apologies, I joined a few minutes late. That's no problem at all, Rachel. So this is the interview, but if you wanted to record something like this, you could, because Noor, you're going to actually explain that there are several interview stages if you would like, and the system on TutorOnboarder will allow you to do that. So Noor, why don't you address that question for us?
Correct. So this interview form is available for you all the time. As soon as you've accepted that application from the all application section, as soon as they've been accepted, and they move on to the interview stage, you haven't yet sent them an interview link or anything like that, nothing's scheduled yet, you can, that form is always available to you throughout the whole interview stage. So the interview stage could last for a couple of weeks if you wanted it to, if that's how you do it. If you do it if you do 2 interviews or 3 interviews, that's completely up to you. And you can always keep coming back and editing this form. It almost works as like a Google sheet. So everything that you've entered in auto saves as it is. So 2 people can work on it at the same time. It's always auto saved, and you can always come back to it and have a look at the answers from beforehand and edit it to your liking. All right. I'll just move on, Matthew. And
please.
what we'll do is with the questions, we'll just answer them all at the end together, if that's okay. So with the document verification, this is where one of the ways of verifying documents is digitally. So you can just watch them. Oh, you can watch them. Sorry, can you guys still see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Perfect, awesome. So you can see they can hold up a document within the interview, and then you can verify which documents you have seen for ID, and if you've seen their DBS certificate. So that's something that you can also keep a record of. And then we also have safeguarding questions. Some of these questions also have scorable fields, and we ask questions like, when was your last safeguarding training? So this is a really, really useful template that you guys can use as a tool and come back to it whenever you feel like. So once, Okay, so once you've passed the interview stage and you feel like, yes, okay, I'm ready to now take on this tutor, and I filled out the whole interview sheet, etc., then you would accept them. So you would mark the outcome as either yes or no. When they have been accepted and you have decided to onboard them as a tutor, they will then fall into your My Tutors area. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the list to start off with. So I've got some tutors that I already have onboarded from before. Now, in terms of onboarding, or registering, when they actually start registering for your company, they will be sent an email with a temporary password. So a user account will be created for them at this stage. They will then fill out a very clear step-by-step form where they will enter all of their details that you would need to approve and check all the things that you need to check. So this will be addresses, tutor details, identity, right to work documents, qualifications, DBS, teacher prohibition, overseas, fitness to work, reference and employment, KCSIE, self-declaration disclosure, bank details, and an online check. So from a tutor's perspective, I'm going to really quickly show you from a tutor's perspective what that would look like. You've got a chance now, just a minute or so, to ask any questions at this point while I just sign into a tutor's account, so you guys can see what that looks like from a tutor's account. Matthew, any questions right now?
Yes, so we have one question from Jack, and it says, with seeing the ID online, if the camera quality isn't great, you can't quite see all the details, would a scanned copy be sufficient? The answer in the truest form is actually no. So you have to be able to see the original copy, and we're okay with that being done through a camera. Alternatively, another way of doing it, which is really administratively heavy, is that they send you the original copies, you then take a scan, you send the original copies back. That would be the purest form of doing it. So it will then be, the answer is no, effectively, but we also know that reality is kind of what dictates how we kind of manage these situations. I hope that helps. But relatively speaking, a camera should be okay. Is there a way to upload all the tutors' data collected onto TutorCruncher or other management platform? Right, so we have and ahed about all of this for a long time, and the answer is that because when we try to create an uploading system, there is no norm by which people have collected their data. Also, the fields that are populated, or the way that on TutorCruncher data is stored, because our tutor will just upload documents, it's actually not possible currently with TutorCruncher to extrapolate those files and for them to be automatically uploaded onto TutorOnboarder in a coherent way. So at that moment, that system does not exist. We at TutorOnboarder will help people to upload and bring their current database of tutors into TutorOnboarder with you and for you. So that will be a completely kind of a bespoke conversation that we have to see how we can do that. Can you add to the list of evidence? Can you clarify what that means, Rachel? But how will this integrate with TutorCruncher? Okay, so yes. Zach's question. Oh yeah, go on then, Rachel.
Sorry. Yeah, so where you've got a list of evidence, there's certain other courses and things that I would like my tutors to do on board. So can you have that field added in? For example, if I wanted them to have, I don't know, a particular mentoring qualification or something like that.
No, why don't you address that one?
Sure. So currently we don't have that capability, but however, what we are developing, and it should be available quite soon, is a training module. So I know that through the onboarding process, a lot of companies would like their tutors to do some sort of qualification or training module. It might be something like a learning platform or a mentor's certification, like you just mentioned, Robin. So that's something that we will have available. That will be completely customizable too, where you can set expiry dates and who should be taking them, and you'll be able to see who's done the training and who hasn't done the training, and you'll be able to create your own training modules.
I meant more of a prerequisite to working with us is that you might need to have a youth mental health first aid certificate. So could we add that field in so that they can tick that they've got that, and then I can just collate the evidence?
Okay, I can look into that for you and see if that's something that we can add as a functionality. Rachel.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, there's loads of questions. How will this integrate with TutorCruncher? That's from Newman Tuition. Very, very simply, is that once a tutor has gone through from A to Z of the pipeline, and you've approved each of the sections that they're uploading, which Noor will show you in a moment, we are developing, an API is essentially available for us to then transfer core and relevant bits of information onto TutorCruncher. Now, the way you host your tutors onto TutorCruncher at the moment is that you've got everything. You won't need to host everything on TutorCruncher anymore, because the base of the information in a safeguarding way will all be on TutorOnboarder. What you'll only realistically need on TutorCruncher is the profile, the name, the teaching levels, and the things like that. But most of it will be hosted on TutorOnboarder. The reason why TutorCruncher, which we are in conversations with in any case, it's not particularly good at serving as an SCR. Now, an SCR is a single central register or a single central record. It doesn't do that very effectively, and I think they know that. And so you just need to move across the data that will be useful for the functionality of TutorCruncher to work, i.e., so you can add a tutor to a job, etc. Can info be transferred? This is Robin Stillwell, to HubSpot once I upload it onto TutorOnboarder?
One thing that would be really useful for when it's transferring information from different platforms onto different platforms is that you can export your SCR, which will have all the information on it as an CSV, which means that you can then import it as a CSV if that functionality exists in a different platform, and you can enter in the fields that you want to enter in. So it definitely has that functionality right now, but with other integrations, we will be working on them, and they're currently under development at the moment.
Okay, let's move on. There's a couple more questions, but let's just move on to the next bit. I'm just mindful of time,
Sure.
But thank you for all of these questions. These are really, really useful insights for all of us.
Okay, so I just want to show you really quickly what it would look like from a tutor's perspective when they are registering. So they've got a really clear panel on the left-hand side where they can navigate through, and they can fill in all the different details. So as I said, these were all the different sections that we mentioned earlier. And as they are approved, so you don't have to wait for the tutor to enter all of the details and then click on submit. Each section is submitted separately. And when each section is submitted, you then get a notification as a institution to say that this person has submitted this, so please can you start approving? And then you can start approving. So it's all in real time. And then once they have, one of the things that we also ask for is a headshot and a tutor bio. We thought this was really useful for a tutoring company, and they put in all the information and all the documents they have to upload that you would need through your checking process. So if I just click on next, and then once they accept that, I can move to the dashboard. As a tutor, they will be able to see which of their sections are approved, which are pending, etc., etc. So this is what it would look like from a tutor's perspective. They can also send revise requests, which means that, let's just say they have changed their address, they will request to revise that information, and the institutes will then have to give editing access for them to edit it. This way, there's a really closed loop of information, which means nothing goes under the radar. The institution is aware of all the changes that have been made and will need to reapprove certain changes if it's new information. I'm just going to stop sharing now and go back into the tutor's perspective. Matthew, you can answer a couple more questions in this space.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much. Okay, so let me just go back to the last question that we had, interview scheduling. Instead of us picking a time to have the interview, can we link this with a scheduling app like Calendar to save going back and forth? Now, Noor, we had a conversation about this yesterday, and I can't quite remember what the upshot was.
Yeah, so because this has come up a little by a few people asking this question, what we might do is have two ways of scheduling an interview. So we've spoken to the developers about this. So it will either be, currently right now, this is the way it is. But what we're hoping to do is later on have a new feature where you will be able to link your own scheduling app to the interview section.
So what we're seeing is that as we're getting some feedback from people, there are a list of priorities that are being created. That one's come quite high. So it will be something that will be in place pretty soon, and certainly by the time, by sort of early next year. So with DBS update, the Tutors Association is launching a daily DBS check. I'm having lots of meetings with the TTA to see if the DBS status check can be integrated with them on a daily basis. Qualified Tutors has also reached out to us, and they would like to collaborate. So before very long, that will also be in place. I think the next two questions are relatively similar, Rachel and Nicola, which is when the system is down and cannot access the data, what is the fallback for server errors? Is there automatic backup? I haven't got all of the knowledge to answer that one, but I do know that what we can do in an interim is that you can automatically export all of your data on a that's a manual thing that you'd have to do. I know that, for example, Tutor Cruncher, when it sort of never falters really. The servers that we're using are extremely robust, and we're also building it on a particular platform that has incredibly high levels of reliability. We are working on a fallback system, but at the moment we're relying on these platforms which we've got a lot of confidence in. So hopefully that should assuage your fears. Fantastic. That's it. Okay, we're done with that question round. Back to you, Noor. Are you ready to kick off?
Sure. Okay, so just wanted to really quickly go back to what it looks like from a institute's perspective. So as you can see, because they had requested, that particular tutor had requested to as for a revision request, and now I will give this tutor editing access. They will then be able to edit it from their end, and then once that information comes through, then we can approve it. So with all anything that would need documentation, you can view the information really easily. Again, like we did with the CV, we can view it again very easily on the platform itself. So no need to go into your emails and your files, etc., which is quite a frustrating and time-consuming thing to do. When you do approve any section, the date, time, and the person that does the approval is automatically recorded, so you have a record of who has done the approvals, when they did the approvals, etc., etc. In terms of things like a DBS, we also have separate checks that you would have to fill in for children's barred listing requests and an online status DBS check if they are on the update service. With teacher prohibition, what we're actually working on now, and it should be live by the time we launch, is we already get information from them about the teacher reference number or the national insurance number. What we will be doing is actually doing those checks, well, doing the automation for you behind that, where we will send it to the DfE services, and they will come back to us and let us know whether that person is on the teacher prohibition check or not. So you don't need to go and do that yourselves. So we will actually do that for you, because that's something that people find very difficult to access. With an overseas check, they will obviously have answered either yes or no, and they will have to provide a police clearance or a criminal background check from the time abroad. This person has answered no, so that's fine, and we can go ahead and approve that. Fitness to work, same thing. So if they want to add any information about what kind of information they would need to give us that might impact their role as a tutor. So this person has just said that they are partially deaf in one ear, but no special requirements needed. So that's perfect. So we can go ahead and approve that. This is just for our information. And then with the references and employment check, they will give information about referees, and when those referees, I don't know if anyone has seen the video that we had sent out to those who are already on our waiting list. They fill out the information for their referees. The referees will then get a really easy link, a form to fill in. And when they filled it in, it will go ping back to this area where you can then view that reference. And that will be outlined in it or laid out in a really nice way for you to, easy for you to read. And then we'll ask all the questions that need to be asked. We've also asked things about, teaching ability and personal resilience, etc., which is useful information for you to know what their relationship is with the current applicant. And then you can approve each reference separately. So I can now approve this one. And then you will have to approve both of them, as well as make sure that you did do the gaps in employment check. You can check that you did that again in the interview sheet. So that's available for you over here on their profile. And you can make sure that that's done before you go ahead and approve the references section. KCSIE and the self-declaration disclosure. So this is again another part that they fill in for the tutors, where they've been asked all of these questions, and we've taken this from the DfE guidelines. All the questions that they do. So it's a self-disclosure to make sure that they have answered all these questions and we've heard it from them, and they also sign that form at the end. We also collect bank details. We thought this was quite a useful thing for us to collect. And then there's also an online check that you do at the end. We will be adding a link for the online check where we will show you how to conduct an online check. It doesn't take very long at all. So we will provide you with some resources where we feel like it would be useful, but that's pretty much it. And then all of that information then gets fed into the SCR, which you can view over here. So all that information will get fed into here, and then you can easily view which fields you want to view, as well as export the information, and it exports as an SCR, as a CSV, sorry. And that's pretty much it.